Adobe announced they acquired Figma for $20 billion in cash and stock. What will this mean for Figma moving forward? I am your host, Jacqueline Cremona. Welcome to MarComTech-niques, a podcast about marketing communications and technology. Be sure to follow us on this platform and other social media. Some of you may not be familiar with Figma. Figma is a web and mobile application for interface design. It's a digital product that takes digital team through a life cycle of ideas, design, to production. It started with the design tool, which is its flagship. So FigJam was added. It's the ideal whiteboard, and it helps with collaboration in real time for content writers, designers, and developers. So it has design, wireframe, and prototype capabilities, and it allows you to test your work on how it will appear in mobile, desktop, and in tablets. So everyone's familiar with Adobe, especially Adobe PDF. It has a great ecosystem that includes graphics, photography, illustration, animation, video, 3D, and print. It's also cloud-based, which helps with collaboration for your team. And it's also one of the best in customer experience management that has an ecosystem. And it's also considered the industry standard, especially for marketing communication. So we cover what Figma is, and we cover what Adobe is. I wanted to go over a little bit about how the company is going to move over to Adobe. Now, Dylan Field, the co-founder and CEO of Figma, will continue to lead the company. There are no plans to change Figma prices, and the product will remain free for education. So there's some in the community of creatives who refuse to use Adobe ecosystem. And this is due because at the beginning, Adobe allowed you to own the software. And so you just paid one fee and that was it. And then they switched over to subscription model. So they felt a little betrayed by Adobe, and some moved over to the Affinity ecosystem and DaVinci Resolve, or to other software that allowed them to do similar activities. But there are alternatives to Figma. Good news for those of you who don't want to use Adobe. We have Pinpot. It's an open source and it's non-dependent of an operating system. So it's web-based. So if you have Chrome OS, if you have Mac, it doesn't matter. It all is web-based. It has the same features as Figma. It has design, prototype, feedback, library, collaboration features. Next, we have Lunacy. It's completely free with AI tools, built-in graphics. And then we have the paid alternatives with a free option tier called Studio. So there's many different options out there, and there's actually more that I'm naming here today on this episode, but there's certainly still a lot of similar products that you can use other than Figma if you're bothered by Adobe purchasing it. So there's articles mentioning antitrust laws, that somehow Adobe violates antitrust laws by purchasing Figma. I have a hard time seeing that because there's so many different competitors for Figma, and I'm still finding out different types out there that I haven't even mentioned in this episode, but there's so many different variations of Figma. I just don't see it violating any antitrust law. What I see in the future is things getting better for designers and creatives. That's what I see, that there's still a lot of competition out there and things are only going to get better. Thank you for joining us on the program. Make sure to follow, subscribe on all of our social media platforms, and sign up for our emails.